There we go. That's the beginning. You always start with when everyone hears the recording in progress. All right, so we left off the top of Lamed Dalet Amud Aleph. So we were talking about, we had a case of you can't start new fires, right? We said it's Mailid, right? Because Mailid B'Yantif, and then he says, okay, what about the tiles? Why can't you go ahead and heat up the tiles? So we get two theories. The first one was because Shetzarech Levatka, you have to go ahead and check them, right? If they're able to go ahead and withstand and be usable, so you have to check it. And the other, and therefore, if it breaks, then you're heating it for no reason, right? And then it's you can't heat up the tiles. And the other one is because you have to harden it, right? After the tiles are made, you still have to be heating up, so they're hardened. So we're two lines on the top, right? So two lines on the top. Tanan Hasan. So we learn over there. So separate case. Darsa or Shatarfa bekaisel or Shiratsa behema. So if you have a bird that was basically stepped on or stomped on or ran into a wall, right? You flew into your glass window, right? Or another animal, mauled it, knocked it down, and it was like fluttering around. But however, you waited, it survived 24 hours, and then you shechted it. Kshera. Right? There's no outside blemishes that make a treifa. So it's kshera. We can assume the animal is okay. Because if it did become a treifa, it would have died within 24 hours. If it survives 24 hours, it's fine. And Amar, Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yana, Rabbi Eliezer ben Antigonus, Tzricha Badika. But you still have to go ahead and check it afterwards. You have to check it. Even to go ahead and check it. He argues the Tanakh, we can't assume it's kosher. You still do Badika. Fine. So Rabbi Zera says a question. So now we're bringing it. Why are we bringing this in here? Because of this. Can one go ahead and shechlan yantif? Do we say that? Remember, you're not allowed to go ahead and shech a treifa, right? So you're going to shech in sort of the suffix, right? So are you allowed to go ahead and shech it or not? Samarlei Tanina, we learn. You can't go ahead and heat up the tiles to go ahead and cook on them. We ask, what's the issue? Because they're doing new tiles, you have to go ahead and check to see if they'll go ahead and survive it, right? So now, since it's a suffix, they might break. You're not allowed to do it. So l'chayra, it should be the same. You're not allowed to go ahead and check the bird or the chicken, whatever it was, because it might be a treifa. It might be bad.
Why is the Gemara specifically asking saying about new tiles? Why not old tiles?
Because old tiles they've already been tested with heat. They're not going to break it up, right? So Amarlei Anan mipnei shetzarich lechasman masnina la. Says no. We actually, in order to say that the reason why you can't heat it up, we go like the second teres. Second teres was because you harden them. In other words, it's almost part of the process of making the tiles. You're being masak and clean. So since you are hardening it, that's why it's usher. However, when it comes to a chicken, it's a suffix. So maybe you can go ahead and check that, if it survived, after 24 hours of some sort of trauma. Fine, two dots. Tanya, six cases or six people involved. One person brings the fire. He's carrying coals, right? By carrying coals, he's sort of flaming the fire, right? So he's carrying it. One person who brings wood, he puts wood onto the fire. Right? All these people are going to say they'd be chai for their malacha, right? The person who goes ahead and places a pot onto the fire. A person who goes ahead and brings the water and puts the water inside the pot. A person that goes ahead and adds spices inside the pot that's cooking on the fire because that's cooking, and the person who stirs it, he's accelerating the cooking process. Kulan chayavin, all of them are chayav for Shabbos for malacha. I thought Tanya learned a brayso. We learned another brayso that says only the last one is chayav, not the others. So one says like kasha had I say or mikara had I say or the side. If the fire was the way we explained in the beginning in that order, so then every person's chayav. If they went ahead and they put the wood down, they put the pot, and this and that, and then only added the fire afterwards. The person who adds the fire, he's the one who's chayav. So now, I understand, okay, all of them, you'll explain very well, he did a maisa. Ella, Shavis is a kadera. Michael, person who places a pot, number, person who places a pot is chayiv, and then the person who goes ahead and adds water. Wait, so then the person is adding an empty pot. Why is he chayiv? Right? Michael Ovid. We're talking about a new pot, right? Ceramic type pot, and because there are new tiles on there, so these tiles, right, are considered they need to be hardened. And since they're hardened, that's why a person who places an empty pot on a fire would be chayiv on Shabbos. Fine. Tanur Rabbanan. Tanur v'kiraim chadashim. An oven and a stove, right? Or the double, right? The double stove. The kiraim is like the double. So new hareheng kol kelim hanitim v'chatzer. You're allowed to go ahead and use other kelim in the chatzah, even though you can't go ahead and use it. You can't heat it up because it might need the bowl, but you can go ahead and use it to store things, whatever you want. But ain't sakan some shaman, you can't go ahead and anoint it with oil or polish it. They touch some matlis. You can't go ahead and also polish it with like a rag. Vein mafigin oisan b'tzaynein. You can't go ahead and basically put water inside, cold water, in order to harden it. However, it's for the purpose of bread. There's already bread in the oven in order to cook it right now. It's tzarech to make the bread right now and bake it on Yantif, then it would be mutter. And Tanur Rabbanan, Molgin is harosh. One is allowed to go ahead and be meileg, the head of the animal. This is removing here, I believe. 1 second. Mogen, right? Bereiskin, right. Go ahead and basically you boil it, right? You heat it up on the head, and the legs, I guess, to remove the hairs. Or go ahead and singe it in a fire. These are normal way to go ahead and basically prepare, to remove the hair, right? That's on the, I guess, the chicken. However, but however, you can't go ahead and use some sort of lime or other types of hair remover or smear to smear it out to go ahead and remove that. That's more of a uvda the chol. Then geizin or something. You can't go ahead and cut it with scissors, right? Because there's also the chol. Then geizin say yerek, but as far as shalom, you can't go ahead and even cut leaves off of a vegetable, even though the vegetable was detached, because it looks like he was detaching it with the scissors. Right? But you're allowed to go ahead and involve yourself with the growing of mina yerakos. These are different types of vegetables that have a lot of tircha. Right? You're allowed to go ahead and deal with those. Umasikin v'ayfin. You can go ahead and you can go ahead and heat up and bake in a purani. Right? I guess a larger type of oven, right? Even though it's larger, it's more tircha, but if there's a lot of people and you need it, you're allowed to go ahead and do it. Batichi, you can go ahead and heat up the water in your antichi and right in your whatever, your kumkum, wherever your hot water, right, to take hot water. However, you can't go ahead and use a new furnace because it might break, and therefore you are cooking or you're heating up for shalol tzarech because there's a chance that it won't survive. So
all these things are not.
These are all in yantif, right? So right. So normally, right. So we say that you can do anything which is tzarech eichel nefesh. However, certain things that you can do in other ways and that appear like to the chol, then we tell you to avoid it. And Tanur Rabbanan ein neivchin b'mafuach. You can't go ahead and fan it with one of those fanners, right? Bellows. Right, the bellows of al neivchin b'shvaris. You go ahead and use a tube and blow through it. Vein misagnis a shiput. You can't go ahead and fix a spit. Vein mechadin, so you can also sharpen it. Also, once again, it's uvda the chol. And Tanur Rabbanan. You can't go ahead and crack open. Right, I guess I read to use part of it to help. Go ahead and I guess to go ahead and cook salted fish. You can go ahead and crack open nuts with the rags. We're not worried that perhaps the matlis, this cloth, will go ahead and tear. Fine. Now in Mishnah, the bottom of Lama Dalet Amud Aleph. So the Mishnah says. V'oid Omar Rabbi Eliezer. Further says Rabbi Eliezer, Oimed Adam al Hamuksa. Person can stand al Hamuksa. Right. This is actually now. Last time we talked about Hamuksa was referring to like the area, like the shed, like behind the house. Right. So over here we're talking about right? Actual muksa, he's standing on things, basically stuff that was in the figs and the like that were left out to dry. So they left out to dry. So in the beginning, when it's a nice fig, so then they're edible. You eat them now. If you put on the dry, okay, we're drying out these figs, and therefore there's a certain period of time they're not prepared. They have to dry over a certain period of time. So they're considered to be muksa at that point, right? Because they're set aside. However, once he says, you know what, right? If he's standing on it and he says, you know what, this Shabbos, Amir al Muksa, Erev Shabbos B'Shvis, on Friday afternoon during a Shemitah year, and that was when there is no issue of Trumas and Maasros. All right, Erev Shabbos B'Shvis. V'Omer Bikanani Eichel, and he says, you know what? This section I'm going to go ahead and eat Lamachar on Shabbos. It's okay. No, he has to actually go ahead and make a mark, right? He has to make a notation or whatever it is in the figs or whatever, which area he's going to take from. But we see that something which was muksa, and then he said, I'm going to go ahead and use it. He's misakin it. Now that's considered to be mukhan when it comes to Shabbos. By just declaring it, Chacham say you have to do some sort of ma'isa.
So his declaration
is now making it
before Shabbos or during Shabbos?
Before Erev Shabbos B'Shvis. Erev Shabbos B'Shvis.
Erev Shabbos.
Yes. Right. So let's see the Gemara. So Gemara is going to say a similar halacha, and then we'll bring it back. So Tanan Hasim, first we're going to bring two Mishnayos. Tanan Hasim, Tinaikas Shatam Navtainim Erev Shabbos. So you have these children. They put aside their figs from Erev Shabbos. The Shachu Isu. They went ahead and they did not take Meiser from them. Now, they were going to go ahead and take them on Shabbos, right? But they forgot to. So normally, right, the food is not considered to be obligated in Trumas and Maasros until you bring it in, right? Until you bring it in off the field, until you bring it into your house. Now, they never brought it to their house. They just designated it, all right? They just designated it. Eddie, I think I left enough space for you to pull out without me out there. So I'm just saying, because you like parked like in a weird place. Yeah.
You didn't block me in?
No, I pulled up further. I assumed that Avrami was going to block me in. So fine.
So they brought it
That's how
to the courtyard.
Right.
But
So
they brought it to the courtyard of the house.
right. They didn't bring it in, and they just said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead. Right. They hit it somewhere outside. It says so. By the fact that they hit it, now they made it fit for Truma and Meiser.
Right.
And they forgot to do it. We can't say after Shabbos, well, since they never brought it in the house, you eat outside casually, and it's not Chayiv and Trumas Meiser. They said, no, once you're Misakin, you said, I'm going to use this for Shabbos, it created an obligation that Motzi Shabbos, they can't go ahead and eat it Motzi Shabbos unless they took Meiser from it first. So Shabbos goes ahead and causes something to be obligated in Trumas and Meiser.
Why the Mishnah talking about Shvis?
Wait.
Well, we'll get there. Yeah. So it's a different case. This Mishnah's which?
It's the Rabbanan.
What?
Maaseh b'Shabbos, right? So
Different Masakin Kli. Right.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, there goes. You're Masakin Kli. You're fixing something. Right. So you can't have it. So he said. So you can make it mucham by just declaring it, but if you forget to do it, there still is an obligation to take Trumas and Maasros. But Tanami, we also learn how Mavertaining the Chatzera leaks this person goes ahead and he puts out figs, right, in his Chatzer.
Right.
So leaks us for it to go ahead to dry out. Banav, right? By him putting it out, right? They're a pater from Meiser because the process is not done yet. They're not dry yet, therefore it's not chayiv to the Meiser. We're going to go ahead and eat from it first, then be pater, right? Nothing made it. There's no Gemar Malacha yet that caused it to be chayiv to the Meiser. So boy minei Rav Nachman Shabbos mahu shetikabe muksa shetikabe muksa lemeiser b'dar shaloi nigram malachta. What is the halacha with Shabbos, right? We say this is going to be in Shabbos. It creates a chiyuv for something which is, it creates a chiyuv. So does Shabbos create a chiyuv if you set it aside for Shabbos? and something that shaloi nigmar malachto, something that was not yet finished, such as it wasn't completely dried out yet. So mi amrina, what do you mean? Mi amrina and kavan the pasuk says karas the Shabbos eineg. You call Shabbos eineg, so therefore kava any type of food, right? Any type of food on Shabbos, right, is considered to be kavua. Is considered important because it says, right, the karaz of the Shabbos eineg. You call Shabbos an oneg, and therefore it's kaiveya. It makes every food set. It's not a casual snack, and therefore everything is really chai meiser. Only something that is, you say, I'm going to have for Shabbos that was already fit to be eaten. It was ready. This malacha was done. Then it's kaveya, but however, something that was not yet finished, like kavua. So Amarle. So Shabbos kaveya bein b'davar shenim ramalachto bein davar shleim rachto. No, so he answers Shabbos is kaveya, right? If you say okay, and I'm going to have this on Shabbos, so Shabbos creates this now as an obligation, whether or not it was fully ripened. So the Gemara asks, Amalei v'eim Shabbos doing a chatzir. Maybe it should be like a chatzir. Ma chatzir in a kavas el b'davar shenim ramalachto. When something is in the chatzir and it's not considered to be finished unless it's nigmar malachto. So the chatzir only has effect. They can say, hey, nigmar malachto, but it's still in the chatzir, so you can't bring it in. The chatzir only has affected something that b'davar shenim malachto. It's something that was fully ripened. So Av Shabbos like take el b'davar shenim malachto. So the Shabbos will only be kaveh, which is nigmar malachto. So in other words, why do you just automatically say Shabbos works on both? Maybe it's like chatzir only works on something which has gemar malachto. So limud arachu b'yadeinu, right? We have a Masorah. We were taught this, right? It was we were taught. Now it's not just me making it up. Shabbos kaveas bein b'davar shenim malachto bein b'davar shalon nigmar malachto. Right? Whether Shabbos is kaveas something, whether it's not, it's finishes. Whether it's fully ripened. And Amar Marzutra Bereder Nachan Af Nami Af Ana Nami Tanina. We also learn this. If you look at our Mishnah, the Oid Amar Rebbe Eliezer, let's look at our Mishnah. It really teaches the same point, right? Aymed Adam Ala Muksa Erev Shabbos V'Shvis. Our Mishnah says, a person standing now. Remember, during Shemitah, right? There is no obligation of Truma Meiser, right? But normally it's Muksa. So Tama the Shvis. The reason why over there he can go ahead and have it, he can just say, hey, I'm going to have from these, and then he goes aside, because he's allowed to go ahead and say, I'm going to have from these without taking Truma Meiser. Normally during the year, if I say I'm going to have from these on Shabbos, and I just go back inside, well, you didn't take Truma Meiser, you can't have it on Shabbos, right? It might not be Muksa, but you can't have it on Shabbos, right? It's not Misaki, you didn't take Truma Meiser. Right. You have to take, right. So, but Shabbos over there, time of the Shvis, the Lav Bar Suyu. The reason why it works that I can go ahead and snack from on Shabbos is because it was during the Shemitah year, and therefore it's not subject to Meiser. But if it was during the other, 6 years of the Shemitah cycle, it would be Azir, because we would say, okay, now since it's not muksa anymore, it's not drying anymore. These figs aren't drying out anymore. They're ready to be eaten. We'd have to do Truma Meiser. So it's not for Shabbos, right? So we say over here, so my time. La mishum the Shabbos kaveya. Is it not because Shabbos is kaveya, that even though it wasn't fully ripened, but it was because he said, I'm going to have these on Shabbos. So I said, no. Shani Hasan Kavan Damar Mekanani Eichel Lamachar Kaveya Leila. Since he says right from here, I'm going to go ahead and eat it. So therefore, the next day, right? So by him doing that, he's being koveya, and therefore it's not that Shabbos is causing something. It's by the fact that he says, I'm going to go ahead and eat from it, he's koveya. So he's koveya, the Shabbos. Why is it just a special din? The Shabbos is kaveya the chiyuv. It should be just any time the person makes a declaration, right? So I said, no, how kamashman the tevel muchanu, that this tevel is considered muchan eitzel Shabbos. So it's not considered a muksa. And shem avar v'seik no mesugah, that the person does go ahead and violate Shabbos by separating Trumas and Maasros on Shabbos, right? That it wasn't muksa, and therefore it is considered to be mesukah, and it is considered to be fixed. Or in other words, he is able, if he eats it, it's not like he's eating tevel. It's considered to be something that already has removed the Trumas and Maasros from. So the Gemara will continue asking this, but we will stop here. Everyone have a